play is so important. And I think what we don't realize is how many skills come from play. And that's how kids learn. Adults learn and students learn by learning through education, but kids learn by playing. Those early years, that's how you learn. And if you think about now, when you learn information, you retain it more when you're doing it, you're enjoying it. When someone's making you learn something, how much do you retain it? I know for me, I don't. It has to be meaningful for me. And it's the same with our kids. So playing. And so I want to attack this two ways with our kids. One is the importance of playing, the benefits of playing, and how we can help our kids to play. Because some of our kids don't play. Some of our kids actually need help to learn how to play. My oldest son, when he was younger, now my oldest son, they're both on the spectrum and they have different personalities. My older son, when he was younger, it was work to get a response from him. So if anyone can relate to that, where you're engaging, you're playing, but sometimes it's just, you're like, is anything getting in there? And for him, it was a very one-sided type of play for a very long time. Now he's an amazing two-sided. I mean, he initiates playing Risk. Right now, he's trying to convince family members in the other room to play Risk with him, and no one else has the attention span, which is kind of interesting because this is my son with ADHD. So in the beginning, it took a while for him to learn how to play, how to have the attention span to play, how to keep engaged. But the more and more we did it, the more opportunities he had to learn how to play, and the better he got at it. My other son, I would consider, we used to have on the autism spectrum different labels. And sometimes it would say some kids were more presenting with Asperger's, where they were very interested in facts, very serious. And that's my older son. He is very serious. His conversation is telling you any fact in the world that you want to know. But the two-way conversation is a bit more challenging, and he is playful, but in different ways. So for him, when we are playing and helping him to play, I try to bring more of that two-sided communication. That's how we work with him to play. But both through play have made leaps and bounds in their skills. So that's what I want to share with you, is some ways with your kiddos to help them through play to develop. Now, so I can get an idea of your kiddos. I have the ages. How would you say your kids are in playing? Would you say they're playful? Maybe they need a little bit more playfulness, or they're fine playing, they love playing? And what I'm talking about playing is interactive playing. Playing could be like playing in sports. It could be playing a board game. It could be playing cards. It could be playing miniature golf. I mean, playing is, the definition of playing is doing something that you enjoy, that brings you happiness. It could be a hobby. So playing, there's playing is different for everyone. So very imaginative, but she has to be in control of it. Okay, interesting. Okay. Prefers to play with electronic games. Yep. He is often does this with his best friends. Great. So that's his way of interacting. I see that a lot of times with boys, that really is the medium for playing right now, is through electronics. And it has its benefits, especially in COVID. Okay, so control. So Karen, if it's okay, I'd like to use your kiddo as if we can. So she's 9 and she likes to be in control of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some different ways and games. And I want, please, like I said, this is a meetup. This is a dynamic. I can talk this whole time, but I love when people share. So we're going to start with Karen's little girl, who is 9, who likes to be in control of play. Control is an issue I find in many, many, many kids I work with. Because when kids have challenges, if they control the situation, they're more likely to succeed because they're controlling the parameter. And if they're controlling it, they know what to expect. A lot of kids, it's hard when things happen that their mind can't predict. And that's natural for human beings. We do better when we understand and predict what's next. It's more comfortable for us. And so kids that like to control, like that comfort, if I can predict it and I can control it, then I'm more in control of the situation. So we are going to go back to a 9-year-old who likes to control games. So how can we use play to help her? And if you want me to include her name, you can go ahead and write her name, Karen, or I'll just use it as our little 9-year-old girl who likes to play games that she can control. So how can we help our little girl to play more with less control? So Karen, if you can give me, I'll call her Karen. So Karen, if you can give me, let's say, and if you want to hop on and talk, that's fine, or you can keep in the chat. So what are some games where you have less control? And now everyone has different, abilities. So Karen, great. Thank you for joining. So can you tell me a little bit about your daughter, some games she likes, but those games that she likes to control within it? Give me an example.
Right. When she's playing, she's telling everyone, you're going to be the sister. So you're going to do this and you're going to say that, and then this is going to happen. And she has everything already set out in her head as to what's happening, tells everybody else. And by the time she's told everyone, there's no time to actually play the game.
Okay, great. So she's going to be a wonderful manager in setting that. Great skill as a manager. Okay, great. So, but then by the time you're done, she's like, all right, I've already put everyone in their place. And is she done with it, or will she play?
She'll then try and pick up the game like the next time. And everybody else is kind of like, oh, I don't remember that. What? And she's kind of like, well, I told you, you were doing this, you were doing that. And she remembers everything and just wants to be able to pick it back up with everyone knowing what their positions are. But if somebody else comes up with a suggestion, she can't cope with that.
Okay, great. And are you talking about like an imaginative play where people are doing different roles, or is this like a established game where she's creating?
She does a lot of imaginative play where, I think she works through things that happen in her day through play and gets everybody else to kind of like, this is how it should have happened.
Oh, I like that. What a great coping skill. That is actually great. And here's another thing with play. There are many different uses of playing, and what she's using in this moment, in this example, is she's processing things through play. And I wouldn't actually touch that because that's her way of figuring things out. But what I would do is, so you do want her to be able to play that two-sided and being open to other new forms of play, right? And you want her to be able to play as a co-facilitator in play, correct?
Yeah.
So for that game, and what I usually do with kiddos like that, I never want them to lose. It's a balance between giving them that independence and like, this is a great way of playing and this is great. And all right, I'm going to be this person, and giving her that, because she feels so good doing that, right? She is like creating this world, and you never want to hinder that. But you can say, all right, we're going to play your world for 10 minutes. And you know what? And you can come at it like, I really love your world. Can I create a world too? And this sounds so fun. How about you create your characters? And then when you're done, can I create my characters? But you see, when you ask, then she still partly has control, right? Because you can say yes or no. And if she says no, say, oh, I really wanted to create a character. Do you see how I'm saying that you're with her? You're not, but I just wanted to create one character in this play, and you can start to introduce characters like that. And she may, have you ever asked her, can I create a character?
No. She tells me what I've got to do and what I've got to say, and I just kind of go along with it.
Yeah. But if you can, ask to introduce a new character. So if it's like the same characters and she's going along the same storyline and picking up where she's at, ask her if she can say, I have an idea for a new character. Can I bring the new character in? And just ask her. Because that's the thing with play too, is it sounds like she is amazing with creativity. And that is one of the skills I love that kids get from play, is that creativity and that free play. And a lot of times our play is very structured, especially children that need that structure. And then it's how do you get them out of that structure when they're so used to being trained through that structure. And so I love that she's coming from that place, and then you can start slowly changing it, but it's coming at her pace too. So any types of modifications you do with play, you want to do little bit at a time and pick one skill that you're working on. So look at all the benefits she's getting. Creativity, she's teaching how to be assertive. What a great skill for kids to have. Stinks as parents. This is a skill that is not good for us as parents, but for them later in life to be assertive and say what they need, how they need it, and how they like something is something that's very, very, very important to have, especially as they get older in teenage years. When they're with their peers, we want them to be able to know what they want, say what they want. So as far as that with her, I would love to see introducing maybe a little bit more characters so she gets that two-way play, and she can start to handle situations that are predicted in different ways. And what a great way to do it within a play scenario, because in life, I'm guessing she has a hard time dealing with situations when they change and they're not, right? So with that, introducing it in a playful setting, a little bit at a time with something unexpected coming, can give her the skills then later outside of play on handling those situations. So do you see how the play can work in her setting and then come out? So is control, since you said that control, is that one area that you'd like to work on a little bit more with her?
Yeah, she's awaiting her diagnosis at the moment, but I'm pretty certain that she's PDA. Okay. Everything about her is control. And if she can't control something, then she has to be able to control her clothing, or she has to be able to control something. If something else is going out of control, she has to take all the control from everything else around her to be able to kind of like go ahead with it.
Yeah. And, there's some adults that need control, that have to control everything too. So, I mean, it is a form of, it is a way to, so it's predictable when you control everything. And I think if you can use that in the play medium to help her little by little to release some of the control and know it's still safe, and it can have just as fun of an outcome. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, wow, yeah. I never thought that character could do that. So you give her these through play, those little bits of opportunities to let a little bit of that control, but see, oh, that could be a whole nother avenue for another one of my characters to come in. So I thank you very much for giving that example of Karen, of her play and control, because I think a lot of us can relate to that control scenario. I think many of our kids love to do things they know that are easy and that are can control, and getting them out of that box and to step out of that comfort zone is challenging. So do you have any questions about that, Karen, about maybe starting to maybe just pick one character and wanting to introduce and keep it the same so she can predict it too? So I just want to do one character, and don't introduce like a new character each week. Say, I have a character that I want to introduce that I think she would have fun, or he would have fun in playing too. And then keep that character. Okay. So I'm going to look at the chat here. So I have, great, some willingness and connection. So I'm going to stick with, so I know your girl is 9. So Becky, let's see, very interactive and play, loves all type of play, sports, game, etc. Less imaginative and has to be with people. Okay. Yeah. And I think, we all come with a set of personalities. And so some people want to play with people. Some people like solitaire and love more of those individualized games. So that's great. Loves play, all types of sports, gaming. So Becky, maybe is there one skill that you'd like to see more with your child, less enthusiastic to play on his own? So would you like to see more independence with play? Is that maybe something you'd like to see?
Like basically outgoing.
You're kind of going in and out. I heard you in the beginning and now I can't hear but it says you're unmuted. Let's see. And I don't know if it's me or, yeah, I still can't hear.
Hey, can you hear me now?
I can, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry, I had you on AirPods and I've taken them off now, so I'm just talking into the phone. So what I was saying was very interactive and people seeking and, always wanting to say play dates and people wanting to play with him or gaming or, that type of play, but very slow to do things on his own. So, for argument's sake, now in the holidays, working from home, they might be on camps, but they've got a couple of hours to kill at home and really struggles with that. And I'd love to be able to encourage him to enjoy his own company more and be able to initiate stuff a bit more himself rather than needing us or others all the time. And, it doesn't know, he doesn't know that, but I can see it. Does that make sense?
It does completely. It does completely. And it is a lot. Some of our kids, they need that external guidance and that connection to initiate. Initiating is something that I see a lot that some kids have. Especially those extroverts who want to be with people and love being with people, but they need those people because they're the ones who come up with things. I actually am having a hard time this summer with my family because I am that initiator and no one else in our family initiates. So it's just, you have those people that are the creativity that initiate and you have those people that will openly follow anything and love to have fun, but they're just not the ones who initiate and come up with the ideas. So that is just I feel characteristic of someone can have that or not. So how do you develop that characteristic of creating your own fun? Because I too feel that's such a great skill to have in making sure you can think of things in those moments to enjoy yourself and to have fun and to fill those moments. Now, what are some of the things he likes to do with his friends? You said the gaming and sometimes if it's the initiating thing that my kids have challenges with, we kind of create, especially in the summer, we write everything down. So we brainstorm some things together. And so we look around the house at maybe some board games or some other games, and we just write them down. So or you can do pictures or anything like that. And you kind of have a list and you can have the box of things to do. So when they're bored, they can go and just pick something out and open it up and choose something like that, or like a menu, right? Like when you go to a restaurant and you're like, what do I want? And you can look at a menu and you can go down the menu and like, oh, that sounds like what I want right now. You could do something like that for the kids that it's hard to initiate something. They can have the play menu, summer play menu, and you can have a list of things maybe. So these are just different ideas. And like with anything with kids, it's kind of trying, but that way, because for him, that thought, is it the thought or actually doing? Because sometimes
I don't know, like as you say, as you talk there, I kind of think if I had a box of ideas, and I told him, go pick something out of the box of ideas to do, and he'd be like, no, nah. Like I'd have to, whatever it is, someone would have to do it with him. So like say we were on holidays and, you know, it was a rainy day and we'd say, okay, pick something from the box. You know, he wouldn't be able to do it on his own. He'd have to say, okay, you know, we'd have to initiate it or do it with him. And maybe it's a case of doing it like that a few times for him to get comfortable with it, that he'll then maybe do it on his own. I don't know. But I know for a fact, like often I'd say to him, go, you know, give him a few ideas. And he'd be like, nah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I know. And then like, no, yeah. And you're also 9, you're getting into like the preteens. Sometimes what we do too is we have done Sunday night game nights. And so like, as you're on holiday, everyone's together. Well, we rotate who gets to pick. And so each night we have a tons of games, you know, and he's had practice doing all of them. And so when it's his turn to pick, he'll go and pick. So we're not singling him out to pick. It's just his part of rotation. Does that make sense? So he's not having to choose every single time, but he does have those opportunities to initiate and choose when it's his turn, and he knows it's his turn. So he does. So I have a son who too is actually 11, and same thing. My older one is the initiator. He will come up with 1,000 ideas to do. My younger one, forget it. You tell him if he wants to do it, he'll do it. If not, you know. And so those opportunities where he's not being singled out, but everyone initiates and it's just his turn. So if you guys are on holiday and you're sitting around, okay, it's my turn to pick something for us to do on this afternoon. Does that make sense?
And that kind of play, I don't think, you know, if we're doing stuff together, he doesn't have a problem with it. It's the choosing to do something himself and his own time on his own.
So if you would just let him alone and it's an afternoon and everyone's doing their own things, what is he doing?
He might just lie on the couch or come bother me all the time. You know, I wanted this.
Okay. Yeah. He needs that external. And that's, yeah. And I understand. I have to do that with my son as well. I just walked up and, you know, he was having his time and I said, all right, let's walk downstairs and let's think of what we can do with our uncle. So yeah, it is, if you can, it sounds like he is going to need that initiation, but if you can present it as always giving him that instead of, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Try to get away from the why don't you? Try to do it with him. So if you see him on the couch, he's just laying there, he's looking bored, or he comes to you looking for something to do. Say, well, right now I am doing, and you're doing something. Okay, so right now I'm doing my whatever it is, crossword. Let's go in the other room. What do you think would be good to do? And kind of look over and help him. Do you see what I'm saying? Like you're not telling him, you're giving him that window, but yet you're guiding him to be independent. So you're looking over some things, you know. Does that make sense to what to do?
Yeah, I guess what I'm hearing is, you know, that, you know, yes, it may need our time and our initiation to set it up, but you're trying to do it in such a way that you're then teaching them, you know, there are things that they can do on their own.
Yes. And the hard part is a lot of times I find kids, if they have challenges in doing things or if things are harder for them, like a lot of our kids, it takes extra effort to do things. And like all of us, if something's hard, the first thing, we don't want to do things that are hard, right? We're going to pick the things that are easy that we want to do rather than like the laundry that we don't want to do or things that are hard, that are just not fun. And their kids are the same way. So, but sometimes I have found they kind of put that wall up. And then once they do it and find they can do it, it's more fun. Does that make sense? But it's getting over that hump to initiate. So what I've done is, especially for my one son who has very similar, doesn't want to initiate, we have a lot of games that are on your own, but for problem solving. There's one, it's called like the laser maze, where you have to figure out from these cards how to set it up so the lasers can connect. And so I have a lot of problem solving single play games just because as a therapist, I want them to kind of learn. They unfortunately have multi-learning games in the house, but that way when they aren't doing anything. And so I've done challenges, and I've given my child, I said, all right, you want to earn some money, or let's do a challenge. Like, I challenge you. And I did. He wanted to earn money. So I said, for every 4 cards, I'll give you $1. And I didn't think he could do it, honestly, because he was having such a hard time doing it. When I did that, the little bugger went all the way to expert level. And I didn't think he could do that. And after $20 later, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I underestimated. But it gave him that incentive and that motive. And this is a hard part with playing. Part of me doesn't like teaching kids that they always need incentives to do things. But some kids do need incentives and rewards. So it's finding that balance, because my oldest son, he's always had the satisfaction of, I did it. And when he does it, he doesn't need those external rewards, because he got that satisfaction of, I got to expert level on my own. My youngest son needs that external reward to get to that level. So you have different personalities, and it's knowing the personality type to help them initiate. So for my older son, if I want him to do something on his own, I give him that challenge. I bet you can't get to this expert level. And he'll be like, okay, watch me. And you see, and then he'll go and he'll do that for the next hour and get involved in that. Where the other son, I'll say, I'll have a challenge, I bet you can't do maybe 10 cards by 6 o'clock. Do you see what I'm saying? So sometimes you can give them that challenge and motivation. And even us as adults, I see them all the time now. We have the 5-day challenge to start losing weight, or, and so our kids, if you can make it fun and give them a challenge to do something on his own, maybe it's a puzzle, and you could come in and out and help him. But when you leave, he doesn't need you to be right there. Do you see what I'm saying? So picking things and structuring a way where he can have some of it where it's individual play on his own, but also you there as well. That can help him to learn how to have fun by himself. Because it sounds like that's what you're kind of looking at, is how to engage in things by himself without needing that external support. So, my one son, learn solitaire, those individual games that are kind of when you play on your own. But like I said, having that external, let's see if we can, and you can do 2 games individual. My family has a new game they're playing. I have no idea how to play it, but they were all playing. They all had their separate deck, and they're all playing on the same table by themselves. And they were all trying to see who could get the most cards in the middle. So it was sort of like solitaire, like whoever could get most cards up top. So they're all doing it together. So your son would be learning how to play the game solo, but yet everyone's there. And then maybe when he's bored and you say, hey, what about that game? You could play that. And then he knows how to play it. Do you see what I'm saying? By having opportunities to play individual games, but with other people. So it sounds like the more he could use in doing different games and enjoying them, then he could kind of step out to do it on his own. So I gave you kind of a few ways of tackling that and helping him initiate. Did that help at all? Summer's hard filling those blocks of time.
No, that does help, and it does make sense. I guess maybe having structured play time with them, we don't do enough of it, and then we expect them to be able to do it on their own, because we're otherwise busy. So I think, maybe there's an underlying message there to actually just have some structured playtime with them to then teach them to be able to do it on their own.
And I find the kids that have a hard time initiating is because they don't know how to. They would if they knew how. And that's something to consider too. And it is, that can be a difficult thing. And then even if they do, sometimes remembering how, but by doing it over and over again and giving them that help, and then they can do it. I mean, my one son, it's funny, so I live in Tallinn, Estonia, but I'm from the United States. So every summer we come back to the United States for a month. And so right now they're with family. And from when my kid was little, he always played War with Grandma. And so that is the game. Every time he comes back, he plays War with Grandma because he knows that, he's comfortable with that, and it's easy. And so finding that thing that's easy for him, and doing it and having those moments, because that's the other thing with play. It sounds like he just wants time with you. And that's the catch-22. And if you have those times when he knows he's going to get it, then it's easier for when he has those times alone. Does that make sense? Because then it's balanced. Game night in the summer helps, or game afternoons helps, because then everyone can do their own things at their own time, but then we all come together, we feel like we have some quality time, and then everyone goes out. That's sort of how we structure our summer, just because it is hard, and we don't want our kids to be in front of the TV the whole time. We want them to be able to do things that's stimulating, and it's not easy giving them things always to do and guide. But I would try that. And I would, like I said, with those individual games, like some of the science, the problem solving games, in doing that and giving a challenge and showing them how to do it, doing it with the first so we can get used to it. And then it gets addicting, and they're like, okay, I want to try the next one. Does that make sense? If he's that analytical and likes the puzzles.
Yeah. And I guess, is there any particular ones that you have seen are good or have you success with? Because it's something we don't have that many of, I'd say.
Yeah, I will. They're called brain games. I will post, usually what I do after our meetups, I just do a little page that has the recording, but I also have anything that we shared and any suggestions. So sometimes people bring up good books that correlate to what we're talking about, so I share those. So I will email that out usually afterwards. And so I will put some suggested individual play games. So I will go ahead and give you a list of those. So yeah, they're always, and I like that too, sharing as a therapist. I'm always looking at games that can, they're fun, but you're also gaining skills through that. So I will gladly some in the page.
And do you email that page afterwards? Sorry, Elizabeth.
Yes. So usually about 2 weeks after, I will go ahead and release the recording and the page with the information. So 2 Mondays after. So this is something I do every second Monday of the month. And 2 weeks after, on that Monday, I release the information that we talked about, and then you can go ahead and access that then.
But when you say release it, sorry, now I'm hijacking here slightly.
I send it via email.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. I'll send you the link on the email. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then, because then, like I said, a lot of people share things in chat. So I want to make sure, this is all about sharing information, because that's how we learn. I've learned so much from parents I've worked with. That's when I first was a therapist. I learned so many things because as parents, we're invested in trying to figure new things out for our kids. And that's why I like creating this meetup for other parents too, as well as myself, to just share some different things that have worked for us and our kids and strategies. So you will go ahead and get a link for that in 2 weeks. You're welcome. And that individual play is so important. And I think especially now, because the way play has changed and evolved from when we were kids. I mean, I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s. My parents said, go outside and I'll see you at dinner.
Yeah.
And we were, we had to create our play. And now our kids, I feel from early ages, the play has come to them. Everything's so interactive, and there's not much of making things happen. And so the brain expects the information to come, not always to initiate and create it. So yeah, creating those opportunities to create your own fun. And like I said, a lot of adults don't even. I mean, we went away this weekend and I'm the one who was planning everything for fun. Like, come on, guys. Like, because that's why I wanted to do this talk about play today, because even adults, like, we have to have fun. This is one of my things. This is why my middle name is Joy. And I joke that I forgot how to have joy for a while. And now that my kids are, a little older, and I'm like, we need to have more fun. We need to play, and we don't. We always think of when we have that free moment, we think, what do I have to do that I can get done in this moment, instead of what do I want to do? And what would I like to do to have fun? And that's another side of this today that I wanted to kind of bring too, is how we bring back fun for us because through our lifestyle, we can lose that. And one of and what we can do as fun as with the families, because I feel like when my kids were younger, it was all about choosing things to have them entertained and have fun. And then we were just kind of suffering through it, whether it was going to the amusement or the water park. You know, it was always about how can I do things for my kids to have fun. We were on the sidelines. And now as my kids are older, and I see a lot of the ages of the kids are older here, what can we do together to have fun and play? And that's something to start to consider if you can think about this summer. Because if you look back at your memories of a child, and if you think of vacations and having fun with the family and those fond memories, so we're in summer now, like what can we do fun with our kids that they will look back and remember? Oh, do you remember doing this last summer? So that's something I want you to think about as well. So my one child, we just did something called geocaching. And I was actually in a podcast a couple of weeks ago talking about this, finding those fun things to do as a family that we're all enjoying, which is not always easy. Especially when your kids are different ages and teenagers, they have different ideas of fun. But we recently gone into something called geocaching where it's an app and you find these treasures around town. And so we love doing that and we love having fun and we love exploring. So finding those opportunities to have fun as a family doing something fun, if you can, look into that this summer. So let me see. I'm going to just look over the chat here for a minute. Oh, Michelle said what you're saying about incentives, Hidden Brain. I like Hidden Brain podcast. That's a very good podcast. You, but better. So Michelle, can you share? Let me see. Hard for him to play. So Michelle, when he's younger, your son's 19 because he loves various sports, but communication issues often left him frustrated. That is hard. And it is hard when communication is a challenge for kids because what they want to do and what they can communicate and connect with other kids while doing it is not always easy. Yeah, feeling frustrated. So yeah, and that's another point is picking things and playing in their level. And as therapists, we often call it the just right challenge. It's where we're finding ways for our kids to do something at the just right level where they're as independent as possible and they're really doing it on their own, but we're giving them just enough help to where they can succeed, but they are doing as much on their own as possible. So if Michelle, if you want to chime in a little bit later about the Hidden Brain, and I will put that in the list of resources too, since you said it sort of connects with what we're talking about. So now I'm going to switch. Oh, yeah, Michelle?
No, I didn't know if you wanted me to chime in now or later.
Now, go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, one of my points in bringing this up is that, I think a lot of us, certainly I, stress over, we have non-neurotypical kids and therefore playing the quote unquote usual way just doesn't work for them. And that makes life hard. That said, there's so much of what you're saying that I feel like in a way I heard in yesterday's podcast, and the date given on the website is July 5th. So I don't know if they did a repeat or what, but I heard it yesterday, but there it is at the website that I sent. But I mean, it's something that I'm thinking about with regard to myself as well, because as you said, getting to know my son and his challenges, I've also wondered, am I not neurotypical? And I don't know whether I am diagnosably not neurotypical, but I think I am non-neurotypical. And the whole concept of having fun, you were talking about what is it to have fun? I struggle with that. And I struggle with how to make things fun for other people. And I was thinking, one of the things that is most fun for me is going out and playing in nature. And that's not necessarily involving a whole lot of other people. It can be with other people, but with the idea, for me, what makes the being with other people in nature fun is that they're all interested in the nature itself. I'm not one for going out on a picnic or sitting on a beach mostly to socialize. I want to do that and with good friends, but specifically so that I can enjoy the sand or the waves or the ecosystems and whatnot. And I think to some degree, my son is a little bit similar. I mean, he's not as enamored of the outdoors as I am, but play that involves easy agreements or relatively easy agreements with other people about what are the rules and expectations is really hard for him. One of the things that I've been thinking about while you've been talking is that, I mean, he's 19 young. So all of those child years are gone. I've lost that. There's nothing we can do about that history. But I feel like the only way I might have been able to succeed in doing better at this is if I had not been a full-time professional. I would have had to have been a full-time mom. And that's kind of frustrating because I was not able to look to my husband to do it. There were times when we lived overseas where we could afford a nanny, and we had some wonderful nannies, but this was not really their strength either. So that's kind of one of the things where I throw up my hands in the air a little bit and say, how do we do this when society wants us having butts in seats for 40 hours a week, frankly?
And Michelle, thank you, because you brought up several different things. Number one, as parents, there is not one parent here, or not one parent I think that I've ever met that hasn't looked back and said, I wish I could have, should have. And you've heard me say this before. Do not. Yes. If there are many things looking back, if we had a different situation scenario, our kids could maybe be different in that area. I do the same thing. I look back and say, if I was more present then, or if I knew this back then, I could have done this then. But it's okay, because that happened, and we can never look back and say, I wish. And even if you did have those 40 hours, I had a lot of time with this lifestyle to be with my kids too. And I still say there's more I could have done and should have done. So, but I also, you don't look back and say I should have, could have, because he could have been the same person he is now, no matter what you did back then. So don't go back and look at that, and no more guilt, because that was a guilt shame. So you know how I feel about that. So let's look at from now. Okay. Because this is the thing too, is, like I said, adults, and even you said this, you like certain things structured and predictable, and all of us, I think what's hard with the talking about neurotypical, non-neurotypical, a lot of our kiddos that do have neurodiversities, we all have nervous systems. Every human being has a nervous system, and how the nervous system works is unique to every single one of us. Just like some people do better and they're more introverts because things that other people do, they like more quiet, and that's their nervous system likes more quiet and centered. It's just the way we are. So I try not to look so much at labels of just individual characteristics, because we are all individuals and we all have things that we like and don't like. So how you said I'm going to go to what you said about you first, about loving being into nature and remembering what things bring you joy. I admit I forgot what brought me joy for a long time, especially when my kids were younger. Like there wasn't time for joy. There was time to be a mom. There was time to deal with, address my kids' needs. There was time for work. There was time I never made time for things that brought me joy. And therefore I completely forgot. And I think most parents do. When they take that parenting role, they forget to play. Now, my father growing up, he was always a child. And we know some adults that really never left their childhood. There's a good thing to that. And there's a good balance. I look at Virgin, why am I blank on his name that just went to space? Bronson. He's still a kid. He's going up to space. He's having fun. You know, we can still be kids, do all of our things we do every day, and still do things we enjoy. So Michelle, you said you love being in nature. There are great hiking groups that you're in, I think, Virginia, and there are groups that do treks in different areas. That's one of the things I love too. I love doing the hikes, and I love talking to people and meeting people and having these conversations with these people while walking and hiking through different places. We were stationed in or posted in Naples, Italy, and we did treks all along the coast, and it was so beautiful. So finding people who have similar interests in play or that you like, that's a great way to get back to doing those things that you enjoy. So, and it can be that playing in nature and walking in nature is a form of play. Anything that brings you joy is a form of play. But it's that taking time. Yeah, summer. Yeah, don't go hiking now. Yeah, taking the time to schedule those things in that bring you joy into play is so important. But the other thing that you brought up that made me think of something is doing things that you enjoy with people that also enjoy the same thing is key. Now, this winter, we are living in Tallinn, Estonia, and there was a period where they have these bogs in the forest, and the bogs melt, the water melts, and then it freezes again, and it makes an ice skating rink through the forest. And there was a trip of some people going down and doing these kick sleds through the forest. And I was so excited and I wanted to go. And my kids, it was a long drive, it was 2 hours to get there, and they didn't want to do it. And I had the choice. I knew they would love it and have fun. And sometimes I will choose to have them go and come with me because I know eventually they will have fun. So I will get that over the hump. And then there are moments where I say, I'm just going to have fun for myself, and I'm not going to, this is a moment for me. And actually that moment, I did not take them. I said, I'm going to have fun. And I took the day for myself, had a fabulous time, nice 2-hour car ride. So sometimes that's another thing. Sometimes we need fun for just ourselves. And then sometimes we, like Becky had mentioned, you know, initiating for our kids, showing them all the different ways to have fun. So really what I wanted to bring in today is just bringing that awareness back into play and how much fun life can be when we remember to play and enjoy ourselves and not always schedule all the to-dos, but also make sure we have time to play and have a balance for that. Now, all play is not always good either. What I will do as I'm kind of wrapping up here is I will, in 2 weeks, I'll send you an email. So if you signed up through Eventbrite, go ahead and put your email in the chat, and then I'll go ahead and email. If you're already on the email list, you'll automatically get the recording and the references for the play games. So what I will do is I will send you some ideas for individualized play, and I'll also do some ideas for family play, for different ideas to have fun together as a family. So those two, because like I said, coming up with those ideas, it's not always easy. And I'm grateful to have this background as a therapist, because as an occupational therapist, that's what we do. We think of how we can teach others while having fun, because it's more motivating to do things when you're having fun. And that's my job. That's why I picked being an occupational therapist, because I get to play with kids. They're growing and learning, and we're having fun at the same time. So if I can help you do that as well, I'm happy to do that. As we're wrapping up, I know it's about 3 minutes left. Are there any questions, comments? I'm looking at the chat here. So it's July, depending. Okay. Becky?
No, I just wanted to say thanks that there was, you know, some good stuff that I guess we know, but it was just being reminded of it, really, you know. So thank you.
And you're welcome. You're welcome. And it is too, I need reminded, and that's one of the things I think we all and that's like coming back to the knowing. Sometimes we just need those reminders. Me too. We can get easily caught up on, I've done that where whole days have gone by and I didn't realize I spent the whole day working. And so I've learned to block off those 2 hours because I love what I do, but sometimes I get really involved in it. And I've learned, especially in the summer, I have to block off those 2 afternoon hours. And that's when my kids go do something. We go take a walk, we go, something, because it's important for me also to have those fun moments with my kids, doing things that are fun. And the reason why I've realized that's important is because when they were younger, like I said, I forgot about that. And one day I was listening to myself and I was always telling my kids what they had to do. And I was always the one who was getting them to pick up their clothes, or we had to go to therapy and we had to do this. And I'm like, oh, I realized I wasn't having fun with them anymore. And that was why I wanted to do this talk today, because it is so important to have fun with our kids. It really is, because they need us as parents to help them, to teach them, to guide them, to be a safe space. But it's also, look at what you would want in your parents. So, remember that. So when we're having fun and enjoying ourselves and we're having more fun with them, it's a better environment. So if you can put that frame of reference for the remaining summer months as we go through. Okay, great. So everyone that sent the email, I'll go ahead and send you the recording and the different play ideas. And like always, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. You'll have my email. I'll put it in here right now. Well, I'm going to put, so here is one way to contact me. This is the website, and then my email is here. And I hope this inspired you to go play and enjoy yourself and the little ones in the remaining months before fall comes, because we all know what happens. Fall gets kind of crazy, structured. and so if you can take those minutes to breathe and enjoy the summer, I hope you do.